Other than Seth is an extrovert in this group? Okay,
I
Trisha?
feel like I'm half and half, so you have both.
Okay. Colby, what'd you say? Did you say Arnold Palmer? What's the reference? I don't know.
There's this famous golfer whose name.
Wait a minute. I don't. I need to understand this. What is Arnold?
There's a famous golfer whose name is Arnold Palmer.
Yes, I know.
His favorite drink was half iced tea, half lemonade.
Ah.
And it was a drink made after him by a company called Arizona.
The crazy,
It's called
crazy
Arnold
drink.
Palmer.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Context is everything, right? So there are more.
How do we know it's up there? I hit them. Put it there.
Was that the thing you mentioned earlier this week?
Did you hid that?
No,
Everywhere hide stuff everywhere.
What? So you hide them from yourself or for yourself?
For myself.
Cooper, you
I have
should.
stacks all over.
Why don't you just put them in your pocket?
I don't have pockets. These
Oh, okay.
You should have had my
That one's been up there since the second week of first semester.
it's like 7 months.
And you just gave it to Caitlin. Yeah. Is it a kind bar?
It's a Cliff Bar.
Cliff, yes. It's going back. All right, so James chapter 3, the mark of mature Christian is he. James chapter 3, third mark of mature Christian, he can control his tongue. And she, of course, but
to some extent.
yes. And so in verses 1 to 12, he talks about three powers that the tongue has, and he uses 6 images. What was the first? What was the first power? To direct. And what are the 2 images that he used?
Ryle and a
It's a bit. Yeah, the reins are attached to the bit, but it's a little metal thing, but it has a lot of power. So the bit and the rudder. And so now we move to the second power of the tongue. This is where it gets a little dicey. And he uses 2 other images, so fire and wild animals, to talk about the destructive power of the tongue. And he said the small flame can start a huge fire. And a small word can leave a path of destruction behind. And if a small fire starts small, but then it grows and grows and can defile everything that's around it. I remember when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old. I have one sister, and she's 5 years older than me, and I was always the brother that just, I bothered her, basically. And I don't know. And I remember she was with her friend, and she, just certain things about my personality. And, brothers and sisters, if you get one sentence well placed, it's like you push that button, and it's amazing what one well-placed sentence can do as far as damage that can be inflicted. My daughter, Glenda, she's a year and a half younger than her sister, Lena. And Lena is definitely an extrovert, go-getter, type A. And Glenda, it seemed like Lena was always the one doing bad things, but they were always together. But Glenda always figured out a way to make it look like Lena was the bad one. And she would always just be able to, just one sentence, set Lena off. And so we as parents were like, what is wrong with you, child? And Glenda would sit there with her little halo on, but little devilish halo on, just because she knew how to rock her sister's boat. And I remember when I was 10 years old, my sister, she was with her friend, and I was bothering them. I wasn't being cool, I don't know. And she said one sentence that it hurt so bad. And I remember I went into my room and I lay down on my bed and I just started crying. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. I was at least an hour. And my mom came in and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't tell her. I just sobbing. And I still remember that to this day. And it's like hurt because of my existence that's there. My sister just in jest, kind of being funny, kind of making fun of her brother. She said something and it hurt so bad. And so the power of the tongue, one sentence well placed, we can destroy. Hurt, anger, hurt with in the depths of our souls, we can hurt other people, and we can break hearts, and we can ruin reputations with one well placed sentence. The tongue is not only like a fire, but it's like a wild beast that cannot be tamed. And so the idea here is this wild beast. Tigers are my favorite wild animal, with their crocs, with their fangs and their claws. And you can see a tiger attacking its prey, destroying it and leaving a carcass and just mangled animal after a wild tiger has gotten done with it. But it's interesting because James, he doesn't just say wild animals as in tigers. He uses another image, and he talks about venom, the poison, and so this wild animal is a serpent with just two. Not with claws ripping an animal apart, but with just two very small incisions, injects venom that in the end brings about the same result as a tiger with blood and guts all over the place. Very insidious, very subtle. A wild animal, a serpent injecting venom, brings about the same result, death in its victim. But James, he also reminds us that wild animals can be tamed. Do you know the snake charmer? I don't know if it's a real deal, but I know there's something to it. They can somehow be tamed. If you go to the circus, which I don't think people go to circus anymore, do they? Does your generation go to it?
3 years ago, the first time.
Okay. Does your generation go to the circus? Isn't it like it's bad because they're not in their natural habitat and stuff? Well, when I was a kid, I was growing up, it was a big deal going to the circus. And you would see the lions and the tigers, and they were tamed, or at least they did what they were supposed to do in a given situation, listening or obeying their trainers. And fire is a good thing if it's within a framework that is safe. So fire can be good. It gives light. Can help us if we're out camping. It can help us cook dinner.
Heat.
It gives heat. Yes, when it's cold. I don't ever get cold here. What's the coldest it's been in Kauai since y'all been here?
In the mountains or here?
65.
In
That's
one
down
day,
here.
it got down to
That's
40.
here. In the mountains, they got to about.
Well, yeah. But I mean here, like in this place at Anger House, what's the coldest it's been? 65. Yeah. Wow. Okay. My son, as I told you, he's studying in Quebec. It was minus 46 Celsius. Yeah. It's the literal end of the road. There's Montreal, and then Quebec City, and then Saguenay, Chicoutimi, where he is, and there's no more paved road going north out after his city. It's minus 46. I mean, he showed us that he was outside. Everything was covered up because it freezes off. Anyway, warmth is a good thing. Fire can be good if it's controlled. It gives warmth. It gives heat. It gives life. It helps us to cook. And wild animals can be tamed and used for something useful. But the thing is, the tongue cannot be tamed by man. The tongue cannot be tamed by man. No matter how much I want to filter my thoughts, which I'm working on it, but it's a work in process. Only God can tame our tongues. Only God can tame our tongues. If God controls our tongue, it can be a tool useful for his service in the church and outside the church, in speaking truth and life into people's lives that don't yet know Jesus Christ. Very important, useful tool if it is God-inspired and God-led. The important thing with the tongue is what? What we were saying, no, not necessarily, but what does Jesus say about our speech? Matthew 15, does anybody know? What does Jesus say about our speech? Where does it come from?
Our heart.
Yeah. But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and that is what defiles. The words that come out of our mouths show the inclination of our heart. If we're going to be condemning, if we're going to be hypercritical, if we're going to be judgmental with our words, where's it coming from? It's coming from our hearts. If we're going to be encouraging, life-giving, where does it come? It comes from our hearts. It comes from Christ in our hearts. If our heart is inclined to do good, which is only possible through Christ in me, our tongues will speak love and encouragement. That's all there is to it. It's not rocket science. If Christ is in us, in our heart, then the words that come out of our mouths will be loving, and encouraging. A plus B equals C. And then the third power that James talks about is the power to give life, verses 9 to 12. And he uses two images of water, a spring or a fountain, a spring, and the image of a tree. A spring provides water. Here in Hawaii, gosh, there's water everywhere, right? Water that we need to live. And so James is showing a parallel between a life-giving spring and our language, what we say. Proverbs 10:11, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. The water is refreshing. Our words can do a lot of good. And water is also used for washing, for cleansing. Some people are so dirty and they're bogged down in their mud, and all they can see is their mud and their sin and how terrible they are. And they need to hear life-giving words that wash them, that tell them who they are, the value that they have in the eyes of Jesus Christ, the only eyes in the entire universe that matter. Where are they going to hear that? They're going to hear that from Christ-filled hearts that are speaking truth through what we say. Our words to others can purify them and bless them. Has anybody? I quit a while back. I quit watching R-rated movies because there's just too much sex in them, and my wife, she didn't like the violence, so it's just something I don't do anymore unless my wife is like, okay, there's not going to be any sex, and I'm like, okay, and the violence depends. Anyway, a long time ago, I think it's like 25 years ago, a movie came out. I went to the cinema to see it, and I think it's like I saw recently that it's been out in maybe 25 years. It's called Good Will Hunting. Have you ever seen it? There's a lot of cussing, and the language is pretty strong, but the message in this movie is beautiful. It's what made Matt Damon and Ben Affleck famous. They wrote it, and they won the Oscar for it, actually, and then after that, they both got famous. So before that, they were unknowns. And if you haven't seen it, if you can get past the strong language, I think there's one scene that you have to fast forward through. But the idea is that there's this guy, and he's a genius, but he has been abused his whole life, and he's been shipped around from one foster home to the next, and he's just had a hard life, and he's always got his guns up, ready to fight, ready to attack before he gets attacked, because he's been attacked his whole life. And so he's a janitor in this university, and there's a really smart professor who puts this unsolvable problem on the board. And so the janitor, Matt Damon, he goes in one night as he's cleaning up the floors, and he solves this incredibly difficult physics and, I don't know, all kinds of formulas all over the place, and he ends up solving it. And the next day, the prof comes in and he's like, "Who solved this?" And none of the students admit to solving it. And they find out that it's the janitor who is a genius multiplied 10 times over. And so he's got a lot of problems. And the professor's like, "Man, you could go to think tanks. You could be helping the entire world." And he's like, "I don't want to help the entire world," because he has these issues. And so the prof, he has a friend who's Robin Williams, the character, and he's a psychologist. And he said, "Okay, I want you to go see my friend. Just hang out, talk to him." And Robin Williams has also been abused as a child. And so at the beginning, there's just a lot of pushback. He doesn't want to talk about himself, doesn't want to talk about anything. And in the end, he starts opening up about the fact that his father has beaten him, and life has just been awful. Just one moment of suffering after another. And so at the end of the film, Matt Damon's character comes in, and he's gonna go to California to some think tank and do great things. And he knows he's not going to see Robin Williams anymore, and so he's telling him, thank you in a roundabout kind of way. And there's a moment when Robin Williams looks at Matt Damon's character and he says to him, "It's not your fault." And Matt Damon's character says, yeah, no, and talking about all the junk that he's had to experience in his life. And he says it again, "It's not your fault." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's good, man." And then he says again, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And then at the end, he just breaks down because he's erected so many barriers to protect himself that he can't even really accept the fact that he's been beaten and all this terrible stuff that he's gone through. It's not his fault. And he breaks down crying. And it's like this moment where he finally lets someone into all of his brokenness, into all of his hurt. And it was just that one sentence. "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And it was washing over him like this cleansing, purifying water that's blessing him until he finally opens up and receives the truth of what Robin Williams is saying. And there's one thing that's been very helpful to me in ministry that it's very easy, but it's one of the things that's helped me, I would say, probably the most in the last 28 years of ministry. I don't remember when I heard it. Maybe y'all have already heard it. But it's been very important for me. Good Will Hunting. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. And the thing is, it doesn't excuse what people do, but it helps us to understand that a lot of times when people are doing and saying things that are not glorifying to God and not encouraging people and not lifting them up, it's because those people are actually very, very hurt themselves. And so they don't know any differently how to react in situations other than by lashing out and hurting other people and attacking before they're attacked. It's been a very helpful sentence that I was at Capernry in England, I don't know, like 17, 18 years ago. And the guy who was talking, he said that. And it's been helpful for me in ministry, but in life in general. It doesn't excuse the things that people do, but it helps us to understand it and be, in the end, able to love the unlovable. Because oftentimes unlovable people are people that have themselves been hurt, and so they lash out in their pain and suffering. So the tongue can be a source of joy because it's like a tree. So how is a tree a source of joy? Context is everything. To whom is James writing? Messianic Jews, Middle East, desert, not so many trees.
Shade.
Yeah, shade. What else?
Food.
Shade. And food is life-giving.
Also might mean there's water nearby.
Yes, when you're in the middle of the desert, being able to go and sit under the shade tree. That's what James is saying. Our words can give shade, give protection, can allow people to come along and just relax and receive and be thankful. That's the power that our words can have. Yes, Nick.
The origin story too is coming from the tree of life.
Yes, yes, the tree of life. Yes. And also it gives fruit. People can eat from that. The words that we say can be life-giving, protecting, giving shade, but also giving life, giving sustenance. And in countries where there's desert, trees are very important because they keep the earth from eroding. They hold things together. And they give food and encourage weary travelers as they go on their journey. The lips of the righteous feed many. The lips of the righteous feed many. Who here wants to feed many people by the way we speak? By the word, the life-giving words that we have the possibility of giving life, living water, giving shade, giving food. I'm a big email person. I know your generation, you don't do emails except for college applications. So my students are like, you're the only one that sends us. Well, thank you. Yes. You're an old soul, Lexi. You're an old soul. And they're like, you're the only one who sends us emails, so we know it's from you. But a long time ago, I got this email, and it was describing love from the point of view of 7-year-old children. And there were all different kinds of things. Some of them were funny. It's like one of the kids, he says, love is when my grandpa paints the toenails of my grandma because she's too fat to see her feet. Yeah. And love from the point of view of a 7-year-old child. Some of them were really funny. But there was one, when I read it, I was like, oh, man, this is so true. You know that you're loved by someone when your name is safe in their mouth. The way that you speak the person's name is such a way that your name is safe in their mouth, that you're loved by them. Just the way you say their name makes them know that they're loved and gives them security because they know that their name is a 7-year-old kid.
Wow.
Because their name is safe in your mouth.
That was in the Easter story, too. Jesus just said, Mary.
Yeah, exactly.
She knew it was the Lord.
And it changed everything. The way he said her name, she knew that she was loved. Yeah. One of the most important things about trees is their root system. And the roots go down to get water and minerals. If they don't go down deeply, you get trees that are not so healthy. If we have our roots in the things of the Lord, in His Word, in prayer, spending time with Him, if our roots go way down into the Lord, our words will be fruit. Our words will be life-giving. Our words will provide shade. Our words will be a result of our fellowship with life-giving and a protecting God. And then at the end, James, he does give a warning. What does he say about the water and the trees? At the very end, he's like, well, wait a minute, people, because apparently this was a problem. What does he say about the water? There's 2 kinds of water.
Salt and fresh.
Yeah, and he's saying, hey guys, you're blessing God and you're cursing one another from the same mouthpiece? How can this be? How in the world is this possible?
Love God if you are cursing your brother.
Because he is made in the image of the one whom you're blessing. And so, as we've said, if you're blessing your brother, blessing God but cursing your brother, there's a problem with the heart. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow springs of life. If we fill our hearts with the Word of God and surrender our will to the Holy Spirit, God can use us to be sources of joy and light and life, and it allows us to speak in a way that brings joy and life to those around us. So, let's make it practical. 4 phrases that feel good to hear. And if we are interested in giving life and love and sustenance to the people around us, it's not rocket science. It's just 4 small phrases that are very helpful as far as us being able to give light and life to those around us. Please and thank you. Why do I say please and thank you? Because this is not kindergarten. But what is the principle behind saying please and thank you?
Gratitude.
But if I say please and thank you to someone, what does it mean? Colby.
It's expressing your heart.
You're expressing your heart, but to what? Yeah?
You're showing that you respect them.
Yeah, that they have value. If I say please to someone, it's like when I see you, I see you, and so I'm speaking to you in a way that is paralleled with how I see you, or how God sees you. You have value. Please and thank you. Not difficult stuff. And so I used to have, I'm sorry, but in my French students, they were like, you know what? Nah. For y'all, do you think there's a difference between I'm sorry and please forgive me?
Yes.
What's the difference? Yes, Caitlin.
One you're acknowledging that that's been forgiven for, and the other one you're just like basically just, I guess, admitting that you have fault.
Yeah. I remember one time my wife was not happy with me. I mean, my wife is she's a great wife. I want to draw this bad picture of her. But she was upset with me, and I remember I said, I am sorry that you're upset with me. And she's like, you can't say that. Because basically it was all about me. I just wanted her to get off my back. And I was like, I'm sorry that you're upset with me. And she was like, but why am I upset with you? And that was the point, because I had done something wrong. I had wronged her. And she was upset with me, and she was calling me out on it. And all I could say was, I'm sorry you're upset. I didn't want to see my error, my fault. And she's like, no, you cannot say I'm sorry that I'm upset with you. And so I changed it recently after I taught this in French, because they're like, désolé, sorry, it doesn't cut it. But please forgive me. Je te demande pardon. I messed up. And I am sorry. I'm touched in my person that I did something or said something that offended you or hurt you. Yes?
Can I share on that? I've been told I'm sorry too a lot by kids, and I never believe them because you're looking at their face and they're not sorry. But
Yeah, not heartfelt, yeah.
I've been asked, please forgive me once, and I believe that kid.
Yeah. So, do y'all agree? There's a difference between please forgive me and I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't know. I'm learning as we go along. Another one. This one is definitely cultural, because Americans love everything. We love French fries. We love to surf. But in French and German, you wouldn't love those things. You would like them a lot, but you wouldn't love them. So maybe I put also I appreciate you. And I don't know, do you think that I love you has gotten watered down in the English language? I mean, what does it mean? Because all our songs, I love you, you cheated on me, I don't love you anymore. I don't know, something like that. So how for your generation, how would you express this thought that I'm trying to get across? Do you know what I'm saying? Other than I love you.
I still think it can mean different things. It's the way people say it, I guess.
Of course.
Knowing those people and what they mean. I know as a teenager, I craved it every night when I went to bed. Here, I love you from my parents. I didn't say it, I would search for it. But, I mean, there are times when you're like, I love you, and it's like, in passing, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. So, is there another way that you could express this idea that would be applicable for your generation? So, like if here at Anchor House you said that, then there would be oh wow, people would be touched in their hearts.
Either
Trisha?
I appreciate you or I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. Okay. So, but when I hear I'm proud of you, is it hierarchical? As in a little bit condescending? I don't know. Because if you say I'm proud of you, I'd be like, well, okay, thank you. I don't, it's great. But I would want my dad to be proud of me. So yeah, I'm thinking out loud with you. So yeah.
Like maybe like you mean a lot to me. I don't hear that very often, so I feel like when you say it, it's more, might have more weight to it.
You mean a lot to me.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, you mean a lot to me. I'm all right. Do you have a pen? What other, Caitlin?
What about like I will continue to serve you above myself? Like not be selfish, but continue to serve you.
So I want to serve you.
Like love you before I love myself, or
Uh,
serve you before I serve myself.
Any other ideas? Thank you. I think you understand the idea behind this is that, yeah, I appreciate who and how God has made you. I'm thankful that you're in my life. That touches the heart when somebody says, yeah, I'm thankful that you're a part of my life.
I think that's another way of saying it. I'm thankful for you.
Okay, and then lastly, and this one, I think we say it very easily, but I don't know that we always do it. I'm praying for you. So whenever I do say it or I do write it in all the emails that I write, if I'm saying I'm praying for you, I stop before I send the email and I pray for that person. Because it's really easy to type it, send it, and then go on to the next thing, right? But if we're saying it, we better be doing it. Because if not, then we're
And
liars.
You know those people, like, you know them in their lifestyle, if they're actually praying for you,
Yes.
or if they're not.
Exactly. And when they say, we pray for Champfleury and everything that goes on at Champfleury every day, I praise the Lord for those people. Because there's a sort of protection, and I would assume there's a sort of protection over this place that is supernatural, because there's prayer protection over what goes on in these places, keeping out the world and keeping these young lives protected. All right. Some reflection questions. So some of them are restitution, and some of them are application. There's more restitution than application, so please go through them. Do you say restitution? No, do we say it in English? Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying? It's better than saying regurgitate, stuff but it's,
Wait,
you give.
restitution to me means like you're paying back what you owe.
Yeah, kind of. But in French, it's giving, on restitue. What you received, you give back. Yeah. Oh, yeah, restitution is like war reparation.
Yeah, that's not really.
Whatever, you understand. Some of it's just like going over the content. Are you a volleyball player, Blake? Blake, are you a volleyball player? Okay, because that was volleyball. What you just said was a spike, right? Yeah. Yeah, tall. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. You can clock people. Like. Canada has a really good international team. They're not as good as the States, but they're in the top 10. Yeah. That's true. But Canada, I mean, there's the big boys in Canada. And it's nice if you're tall, yeah. Football, soccer, and biking. You know, Tour de France. No, British football. The rest of the world football, actually. It's rest of the world football. Football in Spain, in South America. Yeah. Okay. So, did y'all get to the last question? So, other than I am proud of you, which I think it's good. I'm proud of you. Are there other life-giving, transformative words that we could speak to? I respect you. Yeah, it's good. What else?
What you said encouraged me,
Okay, you were a source of encouragement for me. Yes, what you said. Okay, yeah.
or what you did.
What you said or what you did encourage me. Yeah. What else? What are other?
She said I hear you, but I disagree.
Why? Why do you disagree?
I don't like when people say that. It's just like if they're listening, they're listening. If they're telling me that they're listening, they're probably not listening that much.
But it's active listening. It's active listening.
There have been like times where I'm like playing games on my phone, and they're like, and then I don't know what to respond because they ask a question, and I'm just like, I hear that. Like, I just use it as a response.
But why do you say it if you don't do it? Because you haven't heard. I mean, well,
Well,
okay.
what else am I supposed to say?
What's the difference?
What they're feeling.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Yeah. So what's the difference between hearing and listening? Because I felt this as I tried to be a mentor for helping people with their homework after school, and I got the question wrong, so I didn't get the job. And I ever since I've been 13, every time we talk about listening and hearing, I'm like, do you know what the difference is? Because there is a difference between listening and hearing.
Hearing goes in one ear, and it kind of goes out the other ear. Listening is when it goes in, you think about it, and you're connected with the person you're talking to,
Exactly.
or listening to, or
So, Sam, I guess you could say, I hear you, which means your brain has not been engaged whatsoever. But there has been audible waves going in this year and that have made some kind of noise that your brain heard as noise, but you didn't listen, you didn't cognitively analyze these sounds that had been coming in that you heard. Okay. Good. All right. So we have a few more minutes. I want us to go ahead and start the next section, which is the second section of the third marked mature Christian, which is he or she has the power to control his or her tongue. Who would like to read? Verses 13 to 18. Somebody new. Seth, thank you.
Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you labor bitter,
Harbor.
if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but earthly, unspiritual, divine. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, and sincere. Submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness.
All right. So James says, who is wise? That's a vitally important question. So how do we determine who is wise? Remember the first day I asked you, it's all about growing, becoming mature, teleos, complete, whole, wise. We need to ask for wisdom. So how do we determine who's wise? What is wisdom? How does it play itself out? Experience? Yeah. Good and bad? Yeah.
you can see it by what they do and how they do it.
Yeah. It's visible. Wisdom is visible. And sometimes we have the tendency to equate intelligence with wisdom. Wow, this dude, he went 8 years he studied theology, has his PhD in theology. He might be intelligent and smart and know a lot about the Bible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's wise according to the Bible. And so James, he cautions us against assumptions, saying that we should see their wisdom in their deeds done in humility. And so in the Bible, wisdom has come to mean skill at doing life, a capacity to live life as it ought to be lived. I like that. So in the Bible, wisdom came to mean skill at life. I am skilled at living. Not because I'm super smart, but because I'm wise. I live life as it ought to be lived. And so someone who's wise and someone who lives well, when their life on this earth is done, they'll have something to show for it. they have accomplished something that is eternally worthwhile because they've lived life as it ought to be lived. So wisdom is shown not primarily in our words, which sometimes think, okay, it's a wise person is someone who's speaking wisdom. I like to see it, and James puts it in this respect that a wise person is someone who is living wisdom, not speaking wisdom, but living wisdom in their deeds. And so I would say wisdom's evidence is more behavioral rather than intellectual. Wisdom's evidence is ultimately behavioral rather than intellectual. So this is the formula that I like to look at. Wisdom expresses itself in humility, expresses itself in good deeds. Wisdom leads to humility. Oh my gosh, wow. I know who I am before 3 times holy God. I am nothing. And everything that I have is because of the grace of God in my life manifested in Jesus Christ. And if we live in the reality of that humility, then there is only one thing that happens. It turns into good works, which is what James has been talking about since chapter 2. And so James, he mentions this here because it is an answer to the problem of our tongues. Blah, 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 blah. Is it just words that are ephemeral, that are gone, and have no meaning? Wisdom is not just talking well. What does the tongue show? What did Jesus say? Matthew chapter 15. What does the tongue show?
Heart.
Shows us what's in our heart. So the way we deal with our tongue is the way we deal with our heart beneath it. If you change the heart, you'll change the speech that will follow. If you change the speech, there'll be fruit, there'll be actions, it'll be wisdom in action. Every wrong form of speech is a sign that there is a lack of wisdom. I'll say it again. Every wrong form of speech, in the context of what we're reading here in chapter 3 of James, shows that there's a lack of wisdom. It is the product of a proud heart that harbors, verse 14, bitter envy and selfish ambition. So I like it when things are balanced, so I put a wise owl on there just to finish it. Because it didn't look right without it. So there you go. We're going to stop, and we'll pick up tomorrow with the second point, with the source of wisdom. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for not falling asleep. And we're just a little bit behind, but not so much. So we'll get through the end of the book, Lord willing, tomorrow.
We've been doing a chapter a day. We've got 2 chapters.
There's a little less content in my notes, the way I teach 4 and 5. 4 and 5